Hello, everybody. My name is Dratnos, and today we have another new talent tree preview. It is the Priest talents. Full disclosure, this is the class that I've probably played the least of at a high level over the past 6 years. Haven't used it, I think, for any raid progression at all in that time. Haven't really pushed keys. I've messed around a little bit with the specs. I've done the 3 mage towers back in Legion on each of these as well, and I'm familiar with the spec. Like I keep up with how the class works and everything, so I can cast effectively. But it's still one of the ones that I'm least familiar with. But that's not going to stop me from going through and reading all the talents and making a little video while doing so. So not really going to be any like expertise here in terms of what might be good or those sorts of things. I'll just make some observations from an outside perspective, and we'll read through these things together, see what jumps out at us, and so let's get started. First of all, baseline priest abilities. There was a bit of a revelation here in the baseline druid abilities that they're getting Mark of the Wild back. I don't see anything huge new here for priest in the baseline area. Let's jump straight into the priest tree itself, which again, for those who are unfamiliar with how these talent trees work, every single spec gets access to the same tree on the left-hand side, the baseline tree, but you get granted a different starting position by default whenever you choose your spec. So if you're Holy or Disc, you're going to start off on this node here, which is Prayer of Mending, and if you are Shadow, you're going to start off on this node here, which is Shadow or Death, although you can, I think, talent the other one if you want, but it'll cost a point, obviously, to go and then start from over there as well. The way these trees work, you can always go down. So if you have a node, you can go down. If it's a 2-point node or something, you need to get both points before you can keep going down. You can't go up. So you can't, like, go, zigzag up across. You can go straight across diagonal or straight across sideways whenever that's an option, but it doesn't look like any of these trees even have a direct sideways link. So you basically are always going to be going straight down. And if you want something that, you're not directly able to do that with, you usually will have to repath quite a bit in order to be able to get, 2 branches of the tree. There are also these gates that require you to spend certain amounts of points to pass over them. You need to spend 8 points before you get below the 4th row, and you need to spend 20 points before you get below the 7th row, which means that you only are left with like 10 points to spend below that line, which is obviously a big challenge because that's where the bangers often are, is right near the bottom of the tree. So, first of all, Prayer of Mending. I don't think Disc has this right now, but that's going to be something they will have in Dragonflight. And Death, something that so Disc gets both Prayer of Mending and Death to start with. Oh, so Disc gets both of these, and then Holy gets just the Holy one, and Shadow gets just the Shadow one. That's actually really cool. That's pretty cool, like fantasy. And an extra talent point for Disc as well, OP. Then we've got Renew on the tree, Focused Mending for Prayer of Mending buff, Purify Disease, the Disease Dispel that... Yeah, I expect, actually, Shadow Priests are never gonna get them to click this thing, huh? Improved Shadow Word Death, so cooldown reduction on death, and Shadow Mend, which is the heal. This has mostly been a Disc ability, although it's been something that Shadow's had access to as well. It's also here on this tree, and you are gonna have to click it if you want some of the Mind Blast buffs that are further down the tree, so you probably will see Shadow Priests clicking that. Renewed Faith, healing is increased on targets with Renew, potentially something. I get like the whole, it's weird to see Renew and stuff on the tree and imagine like Disc Priests clicking it and using Renew, because I don't think Renew is going to apply Atonement when you cast it on people. So it's hard to imagine them like spreading Renews and Atonements around. But maybe when you're not ramping or something, instead of putting out some Atonements, you just put out some Renews, something like that. Benediction, Prayer of Mending has a chance to leave a Renew on each target it heals. This is currently a talent for priests that actually they largely use this tier. So they've largely like started using this tier. For Holy Priest, that is. Smite deals increased damage. This is a Disc and... Well, this is a talent that Disc Priest will be looking for because that's a healing throughput increase as well. And then I guess Holy Priest might click it if they want to do some more damage. We have a choice node here that requires you to take the Purify Disease in order to get access to it. It's either Body and Soul for a movement speed increase off of Leap of Faith or Power Word Shield, or Angelic Feather, which are the movement speed feathers that you can drop down. Both of these effects are pretty weak movement speed effects, but Priest tends to be a class that is hurting for movement speed, and so often does, especially in Mythic rating encounters, need stuff like this to be able to actually keep up with hectic movement-based encounters. Mind Blast prevents a small amount of damage dealt by the enemy, is another 2-rank talent that we've got. Then we've got Masochism. Shadow Mend gives you a hot instead of a dot when it's cast on yourself, and also gives you a DR. This thing's been useful for like solo challenges before. I remember using this for like the Disc Mage Tower. Improved Mind Blast. Mind Blast cooldown is reduced. 2-rank talent. Yeah, so this is the one, again, you need to talent Shadow Mend to get access to this, and I suspect that we will see Shadow go and do that. I don't know if Disc will. I guess Disc probably will as well, because I guess they'll also have Mind Blast, huh? So, yeah, probably going down that side to pick up this stuff. Although I don't know, I could be making that up. Prayer of Mending has a chance to not consume a charge when it jumps to a new target. So there's a lot of stuff you can do to amp your Prayer of Mending. You can give it the chance to leave the renew. You can give it the chance to not consume a charge. You can increase its healing on the primary target. All those sorts of things. I expect that's going to be something that Holy Priest in particular will be very interested in, grabbing all that stuff over on the top left of the tree. Enlightenment, you regenerate mana faster. I expect this will be pretty good clicking for progression for healing priests. Power Infusion infuses the target with power for 20 seconds, increasing haste by 25%. I hate this with a fiery passion. I hate Power Infusion this expansion. I hate it even more that it's going into next expansion. I hate what it does. I hate everything about it. And, yeah, sad to see it return. Twist of Fate, after healing a target below 35% health, you deal 10 or 20% increased damage, 10 to 20% increased healing for 10 seconds. So yeah, 2-rank talent. I remember this used to be a talent on the tree as well. Actually, I don't know if it still is for like Disc. Interesting that it's potentially pickable for Shadow as well. I wonder if they have ways to like passively heal that would proc this, because if you could proc this on raid encounters reasonably often, this is a big amount of increased damage. But otherwise, I expect it'll mostly be something that Disc wants. Although, looking at where it is on the tree, it does gate some of the Mindbender stuff. So you kind of have to pick it if you want to come down and grab any of the far right side of the tree. And then finally, Shadow Mend has a 15% chance to deal no damage. I expect this button. I don't expect people will ever click this talent, but we'll see. Shadow Mend, the dot component of Shadow Mend is usually not that big a deal. You can't even guaranteed remove it here. And yeah, usually the way Shadow Mend works is like the damage that it does gets, like if they're taking damage from other sources, they don't take much damage from Shadow Mend. So, yeah, and usually in a situation where it would matter that they were taking damage from Shadow Mend, they're taking damage from other sources, and so they don't take damage from Shadow Mend. All right, row 5, we've got Holy Nova over on the far left here. AoE spell. At times, this has actually done a reasonable amount of damage. And there are some talents to further empower it as well in this tree. So maybe Holy Nova spam is alive and well, perhaps. Leap of Faith, Mass Dispel, Mind Control, and Shadow Fiend. So these are 5 iconic priest abilities. If you want access to Leap of Faith, Mass Dispel, or Mind Control, you're going to need to come get that Power Infusion to do that. Every single priest is going to be clicking on Power Infusion because you would be unbelievably stupid not to. But to be fair, Blizzard would be unbelievably stupid to leave that in the game. So, there we go. It's still there. Priests are still, you're obligated to come and select this talent. And yeah, so you'd be able to pick any of these 3 that are just below it. And then I guess everybody, yeah, so everybody's going to be somewhere in the middle of the tree because Power Infusion is there. And then you may also be able to splash. I expect Holy Priest are splashing over on the left, and probably Disc and Shadow are splashing over on the right as well. Okay, Cleric's Armaments, far left over here. Smite deals additional damage while you are shielded. Interesting, potentially interesting for Disc, I suppose, although it's below the Holy Nova stuff. and other talents that you may not be. I guess this is the mana regen one that you'd get. So yeah, maybe you go grab this. Maybe not. Improved Holy Nova. If your Holy Nova deals damage to at least 3 enemies, a second Holy Nova will be cast a moment later at 50% effectiveness at the same location. Potentially pretty strong here for AoE damage spam. Massive Spell, Dispel Magic, Purify cost less mana. Little effect off to the side here. I suspect this is extremely situational, and you'll click it only when you know you need it for some reason, which shouldn't be very often. Damage you take reduces the cooldown of Desperate Prayer based on the amount of damage taken. This one, it's not like an insane talent or something, but it is one that's going to be required to progress further down the tree, so I expect that one will be taken. Dominant Mind changes the mind control effect from a direct MC to a pet mind control, but gives it a long cooldown. This has been useful at different times in certain dungeons and stuff, and may continue to be. It is also another way to potentially come down and get Puppet Master, which gives you a mastery buff when you have Dominant Mind or Shadow Fiend out. So I don't know if that'll be something worth doing. I guess it probably won't be. I think if you're taking Dominant Mind, you probably are just doing it for some M+ reason. Throes of Pain. Shadow Word Pain deals additional damage over its duration. When an enemy dies while affected by it, you gain some insanity and mana. So AoE talent, that's the one right here. And then Improved Shadow Fiend. Shadow Fiend restores mana or insanity whenever it attacks. So that's what's making me think, like Disc is going to want to be coming down here. Tools of the Cloth. Holy Nova deals additional damage while you're shielded. That's here. And then we have Shackle Undead. Then we have Twins of the Sun Priestess. Power Infusion also grants you 100% of its effects when used on an ally. So I wonder if we're going to make Shadow Priests come down and click this thing and PI other people. This is already a legendary, this expansion, that I don't know. Look, if I was a priest main and I was reading this talent tree, I would not be playing priest next expansion. I would not want to deal with another expansion of this garbage. So my deepest condolences to any priests that feel similarly about Power Infusion to me, because it's as far as I'm concerned, this is the least exciting talent tree I've seen so far due to this Power Infusion nonsense that they're putting in, and the fact that, look at the placement here of Twins of the Sun Priestess. That is easy to get access to and probably required to get access to, but it is going to be a loss for yourself probably to go down here versus to be all the way down here. Maybe you can do both, but then you can't get any other cool stuff on this tree. So I feel like you're going to feel very shoehorned here because of the raw power of this effect. And then there's that Puppet Master talent we were talking about. Then we get down to row 8. This is so rows 8, 9, and 10. I believe you get 11 points to spend on your class tree and 10 on your spec tree below this line in rows 8, 9, and 10. And this is often where the most cool stuff is. And notably, you will have access to these middle 2 rows pretty much guaranteed, because you're going to get the Power Infusion branch and you'll be located there. And then maybe you can also get either the left or the right one if you invest all your points to be able to do that also. So on the left side, we have Renew, healing for an additional 5%, and its mana cost reduced by 10%. I'm just going to actually do this vertically rather than horizontally. So let's do what's right below that, which is while above 75% health, the cast times of Flash Heal, Prayer of Healing, and Smite are reduced. And then at the very bottom here, Holy Word Life. A word of holy power heals the target. If the target is below 20% health, or if the target is not below 20% health, you take damage equal to the amount healed, but the healing is increased to targets below 20% health. Instant cast, 30-second cooldown. So none of these effects seem all that insane to me. I think it's possible that you could skip it. None of these seem like something you can't pass up. Holy Word Life, it's so conditional to heal somebody below 20% health. Even if they're in tremendous danger, right? Often you won't get a chance. That's a pretty narrow slice of their health bar. So I don't think this is all that exciting of a branch to go down. Let's take a look at the second one from the left. So we have Charitable Soul. Powered Shield also shields you for 10% of the amount for 10 seconds. This is potentially exciting because there are those talents that increase your smite damage while you are shielded. So if you're going that route, then this could be good. On the other hand, you probably can't go that route because you probably don't have enough points, because you probably have to go all the way and get the Power Infusion and Shadow Fiend stuff. So maybe not. an interesting thing. This is the kind of talent choice that would be interesting if they didn't put power infusion on the tree. Then we have Light's Inspiration. Desperate Prayer heals for an additional X% of your max health over 5 seconds. And then here at the bottom, we have Crystalline Reflection. Power Word Shield instantly heals the target and reflects 20% of damage absorbed. So this could be potentially a reasonable amount of extra damage being dealt. I don't know if it will trigger Atonement healing, but yeah, could be potentially pretty cool. This is looking like a disc line down there. The second from the left one. Third from the left, or second from the right, we have Translucent Image. For the first 5 seconds of Fade, you take up to 10% reduced damage. So a nice little effect if you are going down this. Tithe Evasion. Death deals less damage to the caster. And then Mind Games is the bottom one here. Of course, the Venthyr ability that gives you some mana back, gives the target a damage or healing reduction effect. Very powerful effect in player versus player combat, but also not bad in raid and dungeons as well. So yeah, another potentially strong tree to go down to get access to this Mind Games effect. And then finally on the far right side, if you've come down the Shadow Fiend tree, we have Mindbender. So I believe currently Mindbender replaces Shadow Fiend, and given the fact that over here it is a circle and not a square, I believe it will again replace Shadow Fiend and not be just a second active that you can use alongside Shadow Fiend. So just like a more powerful Shadow Fiend here. Then we have Shadow Fiend's attack speed is increased, which again is going to proc more mana because you gain mana every time, or insanity every time that attacks. And then Shadow Flame Prism. Mind Blast and Death cause your Shadow Fiend to teleport behind your target, slashing up to 5 nearby enemies. Each time a rift is triggered, the duration of Shadow Fiend is increased by a second. I believe this has been a legendary effect this expansion. I don't know. I think I remember it being used as well, although I don't know if it currently is. Could be making that up. But yeah, I expect it's hard to imagine a Shadow Priest not grabbing that side of the tree, and then of course also grabbing the Power Infusion and down to the Twins effect, which means you're probably just going to go and grab the Mind Game stuff as well every time. So it's hard to imagine Shadow getting to do too much over on the left-hand side of the tree because you cannot just not click on the Power Infusion stuff if you care about being good. So pain. All right, well, we've got Disc Priest talents to look at now. Currently on the disc tree, Purify is a talent, but it will be moved to baseline disc, and a talent will come in later to replace that. Purify dispels harmful effects on the target, removing all magic effects, and combines with Purify Disease as well, if known. So you'll dispel magic and disease with the same button. If you talented to Purify Disease on the Priest tree, which you probably will. I guess you maybe don't even need to click that, and you could just come down the Shadowmen side and leave this untalented if you don't want Feather or Body and Soul, and there's not a disease effect that you care about in whatever content you're doing, so might be a little bit of optionality there, but you certainly are still going to have to at least come through either side to get to Power Infusion. All right, so at the top of the disc tree, we have Atonement. Power Word Shield, Shadow Bend, and Radiance apply Atonement to your target. So it doesn't say anything about like Renew applying it or any of the other effects you could learn on the Priest tree, although they could make that happen and still just not have it in this language right now, but I expect you won't be able to just like Atonement with Renew or anything like that, like you used to be able to with Plea or whatever it was back in Legion Disc. Penance on the tree. You're obviously going to select this. Inner Light and Shadow, interesting effect here. Either your healing spells cost less mana, or your Spell Dam and Atonement is increased, and you can activate it to swap between them. Then we have Purify, currently on the tree, but this will be swapped for something else. Radiance, obviously you're going to click that. Then we have a choice node between Solace and Shield Discipline, two effects that restore mana. Don't know which of those would be better. I know people used to use Solace, and I don't know if Shield Discipline has been an effect that's been used before. Power of the Dark Side, Shadow Word Pain has a chance to empower your next penance. I have seen this effect before. I think this effect was, was this an Azerite trait? Not sure. Radiance's healing is increased. Okay, so we've got a Radiance holy kind of themed left side of the tree and a shadowy themed right side of the tree. Radiance has an additional cooldown charge. Yeah, so I expect you're just taking these things probably. Pain Suppression in the middle of the tree. Actually don't even hate having something like Pain Suppression here. It's really good. You'll often take this, but you'd maybe make a build that didn't use this for certain raid encounters and, just go the other two wings of the tree. It depends on what this other stuff below it is, which I guess we'll find out soon. Schism used to be a talent that would get taken sometimes. Something you can use to kind of set up a big burst combo, and something you could use to make your ramps really big as well. So there's some stuff on the right-hand side of the tree here for some really massive shadow ramps, which we'll get to in a bit. Contrition, when you heal with Penance, everyone with your atonement's healed for a little bit. Then we have Shining Force, the knockback effect that you'll need Pain Suppression to grab. So you'll probably be doing this in M+, grabbing both of these and using them. Shield reduces the cooldown of Pain Suppression. I don't think you'll take this very often. Hard to imagine this being worth talent points. Maybe in some very specific situation where you need Pain Suppression back on a short cooldown. Psychic Scream cooldown reduction. Again, you're only taking this if you want to come down here, or if you need, you'll know when you need this, right? Power of the Dark Side increases the effectiveness of Penance by an additional 10%. This also looks like a 2-rank talent, although it's not stated here that it is. And then Schism duration increased by 50% from 9 seconds to 13.5 seconds. Not bad. Okay, then we got Purge the Wicked, which replaces Shadow Word Pain and instead is Fire Dam, and additional fire over time, and spreads when you penance the target. I wonder if there's stuff that amps shadow damage. There is, right? If you take, Shadow Covenant, this is going to be less good than the Pain, maybe, at least on single target. Interesting potential tension there. Pain Suppression also heals your target. Yeah, again, you're probably not interested in the Pain Suppression, in spending talent points on Pain Suppression and its effects. You probably instead want all the other stuff. Sins of the Many, your damage increased by up to 6 or 12%, diminishing for each ally affected by your atonement. So the more atonements you have out, the less value you get out of this talent. But if you only have one atonement out, you're getting a full, or actually if you only have 0 atonements, I guess you're getting a full 12% damage amp from this. Pretty cool effect. And then Shadow Covenant. Make a shadowy pact, healing the target and 4 other injured allies. For 7 seconds, your shadow spells deal 25% increased damage and healing, but your holy spells deal 50% decreased damage and healing, which is an interesting effect. Shadow Covenant's been one that's worked a little differently at different times. There are some cool ways that you can amp this, right? So it's 7 seconds. So if you hit you get some atonements out, and then you go Covenant, Schism, and then you need some more shadow damage you can do, but you've got Mind Blast, right? And then further down, we've got some other stuff that amps it. Let's just go down this full right-hand side right now, and then we'll loop back around and cover the rest of the tree. So if we keep going down the right-hand side, there's a Shadow Covenant lasts an additional 4 seconds. And then below that, we've got while Shadow Covenant is active, Penance becomes Dark Reprimand, dealing shadow damage over 1.7 seconds. So that all of a sudden means that you could do, Shadow Covenant, you do ramp, Shadow Covenant, Schism, Dark Reprimand, Mind Blast, or whatever, right? And just do an obscene amount of shadow damage and healing. So potentially a pretty cool little side of the tree there. Okay, let's go back up and keep working horizontally now. So again, we're on row 7 here. We've got Purge the Wicked deals additional damage, spreads to additional target. Pretty cool. Pretty cool, M+ type effect. Penance fires an additional bolt over its duration. Rapture, very powerful disc effect using the shields, and potentially a good combo with the shieldy stuff that's on the priest side of the tree, which you are close to because you are taking the power infusion stuff. Damage of the first bolt of penance is increased, and again, the Shadow Covenant stuff over on the far right. We got Spirit Shell, we got Evangelism, 2 effects that have been powerful at different times. I expect right now it's an Evangelism meta, but these sorts of things are often tuning based rather than like both of these effects have been powerful at different times. Exaltation, Rapture's duration is increased. Shield is buffed even further in it. Barrier is on the talent tree. Barrier's on the talent tree and has nothing above it as well, which means that it is a origin node. So once you have unlocked this part of the tree, you get to just click on Barrier, regardless of which side of the tree you're coming from, and then you can come down from there as well. It's a new like origin spot in the tree, so very powerful and potentially a very nice little way to get some extra utility with how you move through here. Okay, then we got Radiance has a chance to grant power to the dark side. Smite deals additional damage if you have at least 3 atonements active. Atonement reduces damage taken by 3%. Atonement heals for more when activated by Mind Blast. And Shadow Word Death's damage triggers Atonement when used on targets below 20% health. Very situational, but powerful as well. And again, potentially if you're on the Shadow side of the tree, could be really good for Shadow Covenant, ramps in execute phase. Or if you're ever, if there's ever a boss that starts at 20%, like the last boss of Ivajara does, and you just get to have this active the whole time, could be pretty big. Yeah, these effects on row 9 all are pretty compelling as far as I can see. Then we have the 10th row here, so far left. Atonement has healed a total of 100 times. Your next penance is free and fires 3 additional bolts. This seems pretty strong because Atonement does heal a lot. Like there are a lot of healing instances of Atonement, right? It's like every time your Shadow Word Pain ticks, every single target with Atonement heals. Now, if this counts the number of Shadow Word Pain ticks times the number of people who have Atonement on them, you'll get to 100 pretty quick, I believe, on that. Atonements granted by shield last an additional 2 seconds. Invoke Light's Wrath, an effect that we haven't had for a while, but is now back. A big part to end a ramp. Radiant damage. I don't remember what radiant damage is. Is this fire holy? I'm not sure. Increased by 10% per ally affected by your atonement. And then atonements granted by Shadow Mental last additional 2 seconds. Okay, good. There's always got to be a bad talent. And then finally, Divine Star and Halo. Actually, you know what? Maybe this is still even good for setting up ramps or something. I doubt it, though. I think you probably... I guess if you don't have access to the one... I don't know. I think both of these are... I think Indemnity is more exciting than Solatium, but I think both of the... Like, there's so much good stuff you want to use your remaining 10 points on at the bottom of the tree here that you probably aren't too interested in either of these effects, unless it does affect how many atonements you can have out at the end of a ramp somehow, which I'm not smart enough or enough of a disc player to know. And then finally, Wickedness, Divine Star, and Halo now deal shadow damage and gain an additional effect. Wicked Star, Divine Star deals shadow damage over 6 seconds to enemies in its path. Enemies hit are silenced for 2 seconds. So this is like Anduin Star. Wow, this is cool for M+. This is extremely cool effect to give a disc freeze for M+. And then Wicked Halo, enemies damaged by Halo are dealt additional shadow damage over 6 seconds. Each enemy hit by Halo reduces cooldown by 3 seconds, up to 15 seconds. This is such a cool side of the tree for Discipline, especially for like Discipline M+. I'm still not interested in playing Priest next expansion. Don't get me wrong. There's still this power infusion garbage. But if it weren't for that, I'm actually kind of excited, at least in theory, about the Discipline tree, because it seems like there's a lot of cool stuff here on both sides that would be fun to figure out what's good. May end up being that there's just some clearly best stuff, and it's only exciting in theory and only exciting if you're dumb and don't know anything about disc like me. But at least from my perspective, there's some effects that have been really cool to read on this tree on the disc side of things. All right, let's move on to Holy. Alrighty, we are into the Holy Priest tree now. Again, we've got the Holy Words effect going baseline, and Purify going to be baseline for Holy as well. We've got Heal at the top of the tree. Iconic. Then Prayer of Healing, Serenity, and Holy Fire are the next ones available here. I suspect you'll want to take all of these, although I could maybe imagine a world in which there's a raid healing build that doesn't go down this right-hand side with Holy Fire and Chastise and stuff. Then we got Sanctify. Again, hard to imagine not picking this thing up. Chastise. And then We've got Spirit of Redemption far left on the tree here. Powerful effect. And just below it is actually that Afterlife effect of giving you the extra time and then the ability to res during it, which is potentially interesting for... potentially has some interesting uses, maybe. It's, I guess, something that's, kind of hit or miss whether it actually gives any value, and it's always kind of bad if it does still. Then we got Trail of Light. This is quite a big throughput increase numerically, I believe. Although sometimes not always the most important healing. Sometimes pretty strong, though. Then we've got Censure, Chastise Stun buff, and not broken by damage. So again, if you're PvPing Holy Priest, hard to imagine you're ever not going down this side. For M+, for damage, probably good too. For raid, for damage, also probably pretty good. But these sorts of effects, for progression, raid, healing, potentially not something you'll need. Guardian Spirit is on the tree, and it's over here again on the right-hand side. A powerful external effect. But I guess it's possible you could imagine potentially not using points on it if you really didn't want to be down this side. Afterlife, as we mentioned, is here, and then we've got Cosmic Ripple, which, is the cooldown healing explosion thing. This has been around since, I think, End of Legion. I think this was one of the, in the concordance of the Legion Fall wheel effects for Holy. Then we got Circle of Healing. Then we got Divine Star or Halo. And then we've got, Binding, which is healing you, your target, and another friendly target within 20 yards, reducing the remaining healing on both Serenity and Sanctify. Surge of Light, healing spells, and Smite have a chance to make your next flash heal instant and cast no mana, stacking up to 2. And Guardian Angel, the Guardian Spirit amp effect that, may be clickable over here, I guess, under certain circumstances. Again, these are the sorts of talents that, I think you'll know when you want to take them, and otherwise you'll save the points on them. Prayer Circle, using Circle Healing, reduces the cast and cost of next Prayer of Healing. Then Shining Force or Psychic Voice available here. If you want either of those effects for utility or crowd controller stuff, there's nothing below them, so you don't need to ever path through here if you don't. And then Surge of Light has an additional chance to occur if the target is affected by Renew or Holy Fire. Surge of Light is, again, that thing where healing spells or Smite have a chance to make your next flash heal instant and free. So, this is the sort of thing that... I guess the current build wouldn't be too interested in this, because the current build uses that thing where you only cast flash heal once every 20 seconds, and then you otherwise are just casting heal, but might be something that... I guess you might be interested in. I kind of think this is these sorts of proc effects are probably not where you're going to want to invest your points as a healer, but it might be sufficient throughput that it's worthwhile and sufficient mana efficiency. And we got Divine Hymn here, gating the left side of the bottom of the tree, which I believe you're almost always going to want to go and click on Divine Hymn for at least raid situations. I could imagine Mythic Plus situations being able to spend your points everywhere else instead if you wanted. Light of the Naru, cooldowns of your holy words are reduced by an additional % when you cast the relevant spells. And Symbol of Hope, the 60 seconds cooldown off of major defensives, regaining missing mana. This is one of the most interesting effects that's been added this expansion, and it is very powerful, but it's powerful in a weird sort of way where it's really powerful in good groups where people press their defensives. It's really powerful when people have a weak aura that air horns them to press Barkskin at the correct time, so when you're able to just press it for free, that kind of thing. But it's a lot less powerful in kind of I've been in some heroic raids or whatever where people are not pressing the button that they're getting 60 seconds of cooldown reduction off of ever under any circumstances, right? In which case Symbol is a lot less exciting. Then we got Piety of Mana. Cosmic Ripple heals more and restores mana available over here. So maybe there's a left side angle where you're getting the Cosmic Ripple stuff, and you're also getting this mana effect, and you're getting the further cooldown reduction on your holy words to get more Cosmic Ripple triggers, and you can kind of get a frequent machine gun holy word playstyle that's also pretty mana efficient. We got Salve or Apotheosis as an option here, and again, like in the disc tree, because this node doesn't have any dependencies upward. That means that once you've reached this level in the tree, you'll be able to just select it and then start pathing from here. So regardless of whether you're coming down from the left or coming down from the right, or potentially, I think, even if you spend a bunch of points in the very top of the tree, you would be able to then click on this and still path from it further down. And then we got Burning Vehemence, reducing the cast time of Holy Fire and reducing its cooldown. A little Divine Hymn buff available down here. And Circle of Healing, reducing the cooldown of Sanctify. Casting a Holy Word increases the healing of your next heal or flash heal is right here. Prayer of Mending reduces the cooldown of Serenity. Spells that reduce the cooldown of your Holy Words reduce them by 10 or 20% more. So yeah, a lot of Holy Word style stuff here. A lot of things that you'll be able to you can kind of either spec into the, Sanctify or Serenity, or both, probably, investment on this side of the tree. Rune of Fire, Holy Fire reducing the cooldown of Chastise. Not as useful of a thing for like raid healing, but again, yeah, for stuff like the Holy Priest Mage Tower, or for stuff like PvP, Mythic Plus type situations, or, parsing in raid, or in raid if you ever are needing to chastise stuff, potentially a branch of the tree that'll see a lot of use there. And then Smite, dealing additional damage to targets affected by Holy Fire. Holy Nova also dealing additional damage to targets affected by Holy Fire. So yeah, potentially by picking this stuff and the Holy Nova stuff over here on the Priest tree, you could find yourself doing a reasonable amount of damage as a Holy Priest. Finally, we have Lightwell. That's the bottom left thing here. It's not the old Lightwell that you had to click on to get value out of. It's a 3-minute cooldown that will attempt to heal anybody within 10 yards. So that's a small radius. A 10-yard circle around the Lightwell is actually quite small. This is the kind of thing that certain encounters you will see, like there just won't be enough people. It lasts for 3 minutes or until 15 heals are expended, however. So potentially this creates some interesting use cases depending on how much throughput this is bringing. You could just place this by your tanks on a fight where, like, there's often a lot of fights where your tanks will be the only people within 10 yards of a Lightwell if you placed it, depending on where you placed it, and it could represent a lot of tank healing in those cases. Or you could place this as just a throughput cooldown, right? Whenever there's a lot of, like on Rygalon, when everybody's stacked up soaking those cores, you just put a Lightwell under there, and yeah, it'll heal 15 people. I guess it needs to last for 15 seconds. Like, people need to be stacked within 10 yards of it for 15 seconds, so maybe that creates a bit of a problem there. But yeah, interesting swing at Lightwell, an interesting new take on the effect of not having to click on it, but having to get relatively close. 10 yards is a fairly small range. Divine Words, effectiveness of Next. Serenity, Sanctify, or Chastise is increased, and it grants a favor for 15 seconds. This is a 1-minute cooldown active that you can press. Serenity will make your single target heals heal for more, crit more often, and cost less to cast. So you could go Serenity and then start spamming these things and do more healing for less mana. Sanctify blesses the area where it was cast, healing allies, so maybe makes your Sanctify into a healing rain as well. And then Chastise, increasing damage, and Smite has a chance to apply Holy Fire, which is pretty cool, but probably not that, you probably are already applying Holy Fire to things, right? And if it's an AoE situation, you're probably pressing Holy Nova and not Smites on things, right? Imperial Blaze refreshes Holy Fire. Your next 3 casts of Holy Fire cost no mana, incur no cooldown, and cast instantly. 30-second cooldown. When Holy Fire is reapplied, its duration is now extended instead as well. Now, this, if this passive here, does this mean it can go way over the pandemic amount, right? Does this mean you can get up to like a 2-minute Holy Fire on a target? Could be pretty cool. And then, yeah, again, your Smite is dealing increased damage to those targets, and your Holy Nova is as well. So maybe you could get in a situation on like 5-target sustained cleave where you have Holy Fires on everything, and you're spamming Holy Nova in there, and it's doing a lot of extra damage to those targets as well. Could be a kind of cool little build. So yeah, I would say a fairly exciting Holy Priest talent tree as well. Let's go take a look at Shadow. All right, we are finally over at the Shadow Priest tree here. The top we've got now. Shadow Priest, actually, this is a DPS spec that I'm probably going to say the most embarrassingly wrong stuff about when we go through here. I played a little bit of Shadow in a couple different patches, but I know it's quite different this expansion than previous expansions. And this expansion, the only thing I really know about it in Shadowlands is that, like, It is no longer a multi-dotter. It's no longer a 2-target, 3-target powerhouse. It's a 1-target specialist. So I'm not sure if I'm equipped to even identify if that is changing or not from reading through these talents, but let's see. Worst case, I'll read out some abilities, and smarter people than I will know more about what they mean. So the top of the tree, we've got Mind Flay, we've got Vampiric Touch, we've got Devouring Plague, we've got Mind Seer. So you could imagine not taking Devouring Plague and Mind Seer in a purely single target raid situation if you want to go down the left-hand side of the tree, but that does shoehorn you into the left-hand side of the tree, and you wouldn't be able to come and take any of this top right branch. So you do have to take Mind Seer if you want any of that stuff. Death and Madness. If a target dies within 7 seconds after being struck by death, you gain Insanity, and cooldown of death is reset. So an effect that you probably will take in multi-dotting or in like add situations or Mythic Plus. Mind Bomb versus Psychic Voice. Misery versus Searing Nightmare. I believe Misery and Searing Nightmare are on the same row right now already. I believe Searing Nightmare is the one you actually use in like AoE M+. We got Silence and Fortress of the Mind. Mind Flay and Mind Blast deal more damage and generate more insanity. So yeah, I think you're going to take the Mind Seer just so you can always get to Fortress of the Mind. I expect that's going to be a worthy investment of 3 talent points to do so. Then we've got VE, Vampiric Embrace. Again, not as strong as Vampiric Embrace has been at some points in the past, but still pretty potent under certain situations. Unfurling Darkness. After casting Vamp Touch on a target, your next Vamp Touch is instant, deal shadow damage immediately, but can only occur once every 15 seconds. Potentially a good combo with Misery as well in medium ad spawning type situations. Or 2-target, potentially also even worth taking this point. Again, just 1 point. Vamp Touch periodic damage has a chance to reset the remaining cooldown on Mind Blast and cause your next blast to be instant. Reduce the cooldown of Silence by 15 seconds. Okay, that's one of those talent points you're taking exactly if you need to, and you're complaining about it if you do. Dispersion, very powerful defensive effect that I expect you will... So I expect you'll basically always be taking like Mind Seer and Silence, even if you're not planning to press either of those buttons, so you can get access to Fortress of the Mind and Dispersion. All right, then we've got row 5 here, Sand Lane, VE, cooldown reduction and healing increase. Again, the whole VE side of the tree, the next thing you get is hallucinations here. Dispels, Mass Dispel, Purify, VE, and Shield Cast generate insanity during combat. This whole little branch of the tree, you can probably snip these points off and save them for more important stuff. Shadowy Apparitions, very powerful effect at certain points in Shadow's history that creates crit scaling. And yeah, it makes you do a lot of damage depending on how much number they put on this, and it makes crit scale as a very well as a stat. Again, depending on tuning. VE, Void Eruption, giving you Void Form and then turning into Void Bolt. Hard to imagine not selecting Void Eruption as a Shadow Priest. It's hard to imagine them designing this talent and not making it worth clicking on and getting this whole thing for like every Shadow Priest build, but I guess it's possible. Monomania, while channeling Flay or Seer, your Vamp Touch and Pain damage on your current target is increased by 100%, and you get an additional charge of Mind Blast. We got Psychic Horror and Intangibility for a little bit of a buff to Dispersion. All right, up next we've got Mind Blast deals 30 to 60% of its damage to all other targets affected by your Vampiric Touch within 40 yards, so potentially okay cleavey or 2-targety situation. Maybe they're trying to bring back some of that identity for Shadow. Auspicious Spirits, giving you some insanity on your apparitions. This sort of effect was really big, again, in those sort of multi-target situations where you'd get those apparitions flying everywhere, right? Hungering Void. Void Bolt causes the target to become vulnerable from the Void, increasing damage taken, but only on one target at a time. But if you are blasting on one target, you get more Void Form uptime, and again, we see more crit scaling here. Or you can take Surrender, which deals shadow damage to the target, activates Void Form for the next 30 seconds, up from 25, I believe, currently. Your insanity-generating abilities generate 100% more insanity. You can cast while moving, but if the target does not die, you die. but you can potentially snipe a target, right? Like an ad shows up and you can surrender on it and get your value from that, and then kill the ad before the 30 seconds is up. So potentially strong. Hungering Void seems like a really powerful effect as well that will probably be the pick here. Damnation instantly afflicts the target with all 3 of your dots as a button you can press. Don't know what the cooldown is on this thing, but yeah, I don't know if that's something you'll be interested in. Void Touched. While not in Void form, Mind Flay has a 5 or 10% chance to allow you to cast Void Bolt. Interesting. And a 2-rank talent. And then we've got Shadow Crash. Ancient Madness, giving you extra crit when you start your Void form. So a nice little burst at the start of your Void form. And then Malediction, reducing the cooldown of Damnation, which is that instantly apply all 3 of your dots thing. I expect the Damnation and Malediction side of things, these look maybe like PvP things. I don't see this as being something you would necessarily use in a PvE situation. Because I feel like if you want this, you probably are already just playing Misery. I guess you probably not. Maybe you're playing Devouring Plague. Okay. Yeah. Oh, no, wait. Devouring Plague isn't there. But there's like a Devouring Plague enhancer here, right? Searing Nightmare. Something like that. Yeah. All right. I'm not smart enough to figure this one out. And then we've got Void Torrent. Channel a torrent of void energy into a target, dealing shadow damage over 3 seconds, generates insanity over the duration. This thing used to also stop your insanity drain while it was going if you were in Void form. I wonder if it still does that. Then we've got Mental Fortitude. Healing from Vamp Touch when you're at max HP will shield you for the same amount. Can't exceed a certain value based on talent rank. This could potentially be a reasonable amount of extra one-shot protection. Hopefully we are not moving into an expansion where players need to be at above 100% health to survive mechanics, but if they are, this will be nice for Shadow to have. If not, nice little bit of extra HPS value at least. Then we have, when you have Shadow Word Pain, Devouring Plague, or Vamp Touch, and Vamp Touch active on the same target, your blast deals 40% more damage. Okay, so this is going to be something that makes the whole Devouring Plague stuff potentially like worth applying on a single target. I don't know if you currently do. I thought maybe you didn't. I guess maybe you do. Okay. Maybe I don't know anything about Shadow, how it functions right now. I had thought the whole Devouring Plague stuff was like an AoE thing, but this looks like something you'd want to do on single target a lot and potentially adds value to that talent that applies all 3 of these. But the longer I talk about this, the more stupid I'm going to sound about Shadow things. So let me instead add my insight about the talent tree, which is, again, notably this spot here, Insidious Ire. It does not have anything directly above it, so just like Disc and Holy, this spot on the talent tree for all 3 pre-specs is pickable, and then you can start pathing directly down from it, regardless of which side of the tree you are coming from, or even potentially if you want to take a bunch of high points and you don't even need to path down through either side here. Now, I don't think you're going to want to pass up on Void Eruption or Void Torrent or, I guess, Shadow Crash. You probably will want to be coming down one of these paths anyways, but hey, you never know. It does increase your options here. Mind Blast deals extra damage, makes your next Devouring Plague cost no insanity. Okay, yeah, Devouring Plague, you do use Devouring Plague on single target, right? It's your insanity dump, right? Yeah, me dumb. I'm remembering a version of Shadow where you would just like insanity up to 100 and then Void Eruption, and then insanity up to 100 and then Void Eruption, but I don't think that's how it works. I think right now it's you just Void Eruption on cooldown, right? And Devouring Plague, you just spend all your insanity into. So, yeah. I wonder how many targets you'd be able to maintain all 3 of these dots on. Okay, let's go into... I guess it doesn't matter, right? You only need it on one target because you're only Mind Blasting one target. And the more targets there are, the less you're caring about the Mind Blast and the more you're caring about the dots, right? At least in historical versions of Shadow. In the current version of Shadow, it's just single target, right? Okay, we're down here at the bottom left. While shielded, Vamp Touch and Plague deal additional damage. 3-rank talent. Okay, 15% damage increase while you're shielded sounds nice, but in real difficult raid encounters, you rarely will have very high uptime on being shielded. This creates some synergy with, like, Disc Priest, right? To keep a shield on you. I wonder if this will create a situation where you have, like, a weak aura that just, like, anytime the Shadow Priest isn't shielded, the Disc Priest is like, okay, my first priority is just put a shield on that person so they're doing more damage. That sounds kind of dumb. At least if you're topped, you'll be shielding yourself from the mental fortitude effect that is a prerequisite for this talent. And then just at the very bottom here on the bottom left, we have Idol of N'Zoth, which applies Echoing Void 20% of the time you tick any of your dots. And then it has a chance to collapse just like the Echoing Void effect did. But instead of Echoing Void being from you, it's from your target, it looks like. Echoing Void, this was a very powerful corruption effect. It scaled off your maximum HP before. I suspect that this is not scaling off of HP. This is scaling off of just like number, just a number that'll be in this talent. So could be strong though. Could be strong in AoE type situations for sure. If the more dot ticks you're doing, right, this could be a lot of damage. The other option being Shadow Fiend, causing you to gain a benefit based on your target's current emotional state. So depending on what this does against like people who are, crying, this could be really strong in arenas. But I don't know what this will do against raid bosses. We'll see. I guess I've always wondered how those raid bosses are feeling when we're fighting them, so could be good to find out. Another thing that either Sanguine Teachings or Unleash the Shadows here, which is Vamp Touch crits have a chance to create an apparition. Very strong, and again, further crit scaling potentially effect. We have Shadowy Apparitions have a chance to become infused with the Void, dealing 20% additional damage. So a 10% chance to deal 20% additional damage is a 2% increased damage on Shadowy Apparitions. So maybe a little bit of a lackluster talent there. Okay, then we have... So yeah, this was Unleash the Shadows. Then over here we have Rot and Wither. Mind Flay and Mind Sear damage has a chance to extend Vamp Touch and Pain. So yeah, potentially good in AoE situations if you just have all your dots out and then you start spamming Sear on things. Probably not a huge deal type effect, but I am dumb, remember? Then we have, so either of these talents would be a prerequisite for Living Shadow. Consuming Vampiric Insight causes your shadow to animate after a moment. For 10 seconds, whenever you cast a spell, your shadow will cast a similar spell. And Vampiric Insight was the Vampiric Touch, giving you a chance to reset cooldown on Mind Blast and causing your next Mind Blast to be instant. I think this is currently their set bonus. I'm not 100% sure. So, or similar to their set bonus at least. Idolic Intuition is either Rotten Wither or Abyssal Knowledge is a prerequisite for this, which gives you a greater proc rate on Vampiric Insight. Abyssal Knowledge is Monomania, also increases the crit chance of Shadow Word Pain and Vampiric Touch, 3-rank talent. And again, remember there's crit scaling on some of your effects, so a lot of different synergistic stuff here. I wonder what actually you have enough points for on this tree. I feel like there's so much stuff that you might want here that you're gonna really need to cut, like ever going down, even potentially cutting stuff like the dispersion things and definitely the like the Vampiric Embrace things, just for it seems like there's so much damage you can talent into here. And then finally, this final bottom right choice node, Idol of Cthulhu, Mind Flay and Mind Sear have a chance to spawn a Void Tendril or Void Lasher that channels at your location for 15 seconds, generating 3 insanity every 1 second. Or Idol of Yogg-Saron, after conjuring 50 apparitions, you summon a Thing from Beyond that serves you for 20 seconds. Thing from Beyond blasts enemies for shadow damage. So let me just say I love thematically what they're doing with Shadow here. They've got these 4 idols, 1 for each of the old gods. They're bringing back corruption effects or inspired by corruption effects for these things as well. Extremely cool thematic effect. I'm nowhere near qualified to discuss anything else about the Shadow Priest tree. I'm sure there are Shadow Priests that are physically cringing in pain at the horrible ways that I've misunderstood how the spec functions during this time, but hopefully at least you found this interesting. Hopefully you found the whole look at the Priest trees interesting. This video went on way longer than I thought it would, but, fun to look at talent trees. Hope you liked the video. Let me know if you did. Hit the thumbs up and the subscribe and stuff if you did as well, and I'll make these for the future talent trees that come out. If you don't do that, then I won't. So if you hated the video, first off, why are you still here? But second of all, don't press any of those buttons and I will know not to create any more of these. Thanks for watching, and maybe I'll see you in the next one. Bye.